Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Keenan.
Heidi says that me and Mike Coulter are the exact same height, so it's like we're the same person.
I almost didn't recognize you. I was just like, Mike Coulter is on the show today? What's going on? No, that's Sean Keenan. My eyes have deceived me. I just rub them a little bit like you do in the cartoons with the both hands. And then there he is. It's just like, no, just a white dude.
It's another nerdy white guy talking about Luke Cage.
That's how original, and we're going to keep to that originality on this program because that's what we do, doggone it. Now, for those of you that might have realized, Mr. Bruce Leslie is out. If you've listened to our Patreon feed, which all of you did last week, you might know why that is. Bruce is out. He's kind of becoming the Harold Hill of West Virginia, I believe it is. He's going around singing and dancing and doing all the other. No, wait, that's Kid that's doing all that good stuff.
Yeah, you're talking about White. I can't remember his first name right
Silas.
now. The Dancing Outlaw.
The Dancing Outlaw, Josie Wales.
Jesse White, that's his name.
Wouldn't that have made a much different movie? But so Bruce is out there, and but don't worry, he'll be back very, very soon. But we are going to hold it down here today and review the first 6 episodes of Marvel's Luke Cage Season 2. I think we were all pretty high, at least on the first half of Luke Cage Season 1. How does the Season 2 fare? Well, that's what we're here for today. And like I said, last week, somebody had said, hey, there's a really long intro on the front of the episode. What gives? Well, it turns out I didn't do this on accident. It was totally on purpose. We released, actually, the what normally goes on the Patreon feed to everyone. And I'll be honest with you, and Sean, I think you'll back me up on this. That episode... the Patreon stuff was probably one of our, while entertaining, probably one of our weaker ones. You know?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
We didn't have a lot.
It was super weak. It made me mad.
It was laid back. It was like, really, if we were to plan one that we would kind of give out to people, it would actually be one that would be a lot radder than those. But people were digging it. They were just like, oh, well, this is what. Yes, that is what people get in the front and rear end of the show. That support us over at Patreon. So not only do they get to vote, they get to hear the other little special stuff that goes on behind the scenes, some tidbits and some info, if you will. If you want the most exclusive information, that's where you go. And you do that by heading on over to patreon.com/HMP and join at any level, man. And obviously, the more that you do, the more perks and stuff that you get. I liken it to this, man. We try by and large, not that many are knocking down the door, mind you, but if I had a bunch of advertisers that were like, hey, we'd like to give you some stuff, I'd rather just, give you guys commercial-free stuff and give you, the show.
Trust me when I tell you this, listeners, dearest HMPers, Adam is one of the worst shills ever. In the history of broadcast advertising. There is no one less suited to be a pitch man than Adam Portrais.
We've said actually over on the Film Find, Matt and I have literally said out loud, we will take money for reviews. We will if Sony ponies up and just says, hey, look, here's $500, review this garbage movie. Well, we would sing the praises like you wouldn't believe. So we can be bought.
I didn't say that you couldn't. I'm just saying that you wouldn't do a good job at it.
Oh no, that's also true. Because if and they did that, you'd be able to see right through it, just as you would a window in your house. You'd be like, "This is a load of crap, isn't it?" He seems really energetic about something that doesn't seem to be there. But essentially, what I'm saying is here it's value for value. If you do get something out of this show,
what does that mean? What does value for value mean?
Okay.
What does that phrase mean?
I can tell you. So essentially, when you're walking down the street in a busy city, your New Yorks, your LAs, because I've seen them. We've all seen them done in both.
I've been down New York and LA streets. Sure.
Yes. And on those, you see people doing some busking and whatnot. Yeah, they're playing their drums on the little garbage cans there, or the guitar, what have you.
Sure, They're on their brass instruments replaying Bobby Brown's "My Prerogative."
Oh yeah. Great stuff. And you walk by, you got a little bit of entertainment out of what you did. You got a couple of change in your pocket. You toss that in that bad boy. Why? Because you go, these guys are working hard. I was entertained for at least a small amount of time. There you go. Here's some change. You have brought value into my life by your music, or in this case, a weekly podcast. Then I would like to give back to you. It's simple.
So that's what that means. That's what value for value means.
Exactly. If we provide any kind of value in yours, just reciprocate with what value that you believe that brought into your life. If it's $1, if you're like, you know what, it's worth $0.25 to listen to this episode, to listen to this podcast once a week. If that's what this show's worth to you, just let us know. That's all. And if it's more, God bless. And you get more stuff out of it. That's the cool part, too. Because most value for value is just like, oh, look, we all walked out with something. I got a little bit of money. You got a little bit of entertainment. But here, you actually get more for your value because we give you extra stuff. And we let you guys vote on the stuff that we do. So, therefore, you also get to kind of have a say in everything, man.
It's true.
So,
you are right.
Not too shabby. So, if you'd like to do that, head on over to patreon.com/HMP today. See, how was that for
this week? You can hear this week, if you were a patron, you could hear me get on my soapbox about how ridiculous some people are being about Star Wars.
Oh yeah, we went on a big Star Wars rant, and we talked about people that are horrible, like Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
No. Like Bruce Willis and nerds. So check that out, everybody. Oh man, even
I've never actually worked with Bruce Willis. I couldn't tell you whether he's a miserable person or not.
I don't know. I get a vibe. Unless he's somebody I think that respects you. Like if he respects you, then you're cool. But if he thinks you're kind of dodgy in any sort of way, he doesn't want nothing to do with you. That's the vibe I get. But I think we'll find out more as the time goes on. But yeah, so thank you guys for all of that. And again, Bruce will be back. Actually, Bruce will be back soon. So let's plug this at the top of the show because we'll plug it at the end because I think this is important. Because it's the busy time of year, Sean. Because not only do we have this show, not only do we have heroes and villains coming back from time to time, which is pretty awesome. You got Chubby Wizard on a regular basis. You also have the Film Find, and now coming up next week, or this week rather, excuse me. Coming out Tuesday night / Wednesday morning, we're dropping Preacher Podcast again. Can you believe it's that time already? Nuts.
I can't. It seems like it was just a couple weeks ago that we finished the last season. A lot has happened since that season stops. My big plea to AMC to have me be the host of Talking Preacher. I bet they wish that they made that switch now.
Well, the chickens have come home to roost.
Yes, they have.
I'm just, I'm not saying that we see the future per se, but we are from the future. And we know that these are the moves that you should have made. So just, So if you want to buy a shirt.
And here's the weird thing. The future, there's a lot of different versions of the future in movies. You know who got it the most right? Virtuosity. Weird.
Yeah. A lot of people don't remember Virtuosity. I think that was one that kind of came and went for most folks.
It's a big mistake because that movie's great. It's not great. It's awful.
But today we're going to be talking about Luke Cage Season 2. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. Here is the trailer for Luke Cage Season 2.
You don't need to be bulletproof to be a superhero. Black women have always had superpowers, turning pain into progress. Harlem doesn't need a hero. It needs a queen.
Ready or not, here I come.
I want to bring miracles to Harlem. All of this could be yours. I can be the mother you always wanted me to be.
Ready or not, here I come.
Guns. That's where our money really comes from.
It's time to let the ghosts of the past die.
Mariah almost burned. I want to smell her flesh.
Yo, I play my enemies like a game of chess, yes.
Everything that belongs to Mariah
I hex you,
should be mine. Bushmaster will scorch Harlem to get to her.
you can't hide.
Harlem can only handle one devil at a time.
I'm done playing by the rules. I am who I am.
I know you. You can't be trusted.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't
Luke Cage is doing our dirty work for us.
find you and take it slowly.
My dark chocolate Boy Scout. Of course you're going to save me.
Ready or not,
You leave me out there.
ready or not,
She won't stop.
ready or not, here I come.
You want me out there.
Ready or not.
Because without me, God help Harlem. God help us all.
Here I come.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Luke Cage Season 2, available on Netflix right now. Of course, we are going to be reviewing the first 6 episodes, and as always, with new things like this, we tend to get some new listeners every now and then. We do spoil everything from the get-go here, so we're going to be talking about everything probably in Season 1 of Luke Cage, and everything up, including the first 6 episodes of Season 2. So let's do this. Do you have a comic book connection? I don't know if we talked about that even beforehand.
We did not, and I don't have
That's
one.
fine, and I'll be frank, I didn't think about it until I sat down and called you. I was just like, oh yeah, Bruce is not going to be here for this one. But go back and listen to the last Luke Cage episode. There's 2 episodes of Luke Cage already in this podcast that have comic book connections, and I'm sure we'll get another one when we cover the second half. So don't worry, you'll get one. But let's talk about the first season a little bit before we jump into Season 2. I think infamously, everyone loved the first half of Season 1.
Yeah, the first 6 episodes are amazing. It seemed like they had every good idea, and it seemed like Luke Cage was going to be far and away the runaway, big, gigantic Netflix Marvel show that everyone took with them and was like, this is the greatest show ever. And then came the last half of Season 1.
Yeah, it really is the boy, oh boy, we have Cottonmouth, one of the best villains ever. And while it was a great setup and punch for the character to die, it was such a blow to the whole thing. And that was really before Mahershala Ali really kind of blew up. His star had been rising for a long time. But this was, in my opinion, the thing that really cemented him is just like, oh, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, and the funny thing, well, we'll get into it, but Season 1, it was like, oh, okay, so this is the type of Luke Cage that we're going to see on the show, because Luke Cage has gone through a lot of different incarnations with the comic books,
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want him to sound like he was from the 70s and written by white people. I didn't want him to be,
jive turkeys.
Say what?
Hey, jive turkeys, come on.
Yes. None of that crap, please. I also didn't want to see him, though, be like kind of like I was watching an episode of The Wire, but with superhero.
Right.
And they straddled that line really well actually the whole first season, because the character of Luke Cage is really well done on the Netflix show, and it's going to be what everyone knows as their Luke Cage. I mean, let's be honest, because no one's reading the Luke Cage comic book. Everyone will know him from this point forward as the Mike Coulter version of Luke Cage. And that's not a bad thing. I think that he's a great character, and he brings a lot of gravity to his own show, because when he's not on screen in the first season, a lot of the time something's missing when he's not there.
Where's Poochie?
Right, because when they start getting into more and more of the second half of the season, and it's a stupid half brother plot line, and like, oh, I didn't know I had a half brother. Really you didn't know? So it just started getting ridiculous. And so I was and after the Defenders, which was kind of a letdown also, it was like, well, how are they going to work on Luke Cage Season 2? Because I was very disappointed with Jessica Jones, that was my favorite Marvel show until the second season. And the second season is a bummer of Jessica Jones, Whereas, I was hoping that they wouldn't do the same thing here for season 2.
Now, with my memory, in the order, was Jessica Jones second to come out in the, kind of Marvel 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing, or was Jessica Jones third after Luke Cage?
Well, I remember. No, it had to have been she was before Luke Cage because we first met Luke Cage in Jessica Jones.
That's right.
So what I'm not remembering is whether or not Daredevil season 2 came out before season 1 Jessica Jones. That part I don't remember. But I can tell you that yes, she came before Luke because Luke was introduced in Jessica Jones, and then there's Luke Cage now, and far and away that first season of Jessica Jones, everything else had, for me personally, everything else had a lot to live up to, because Jessica Jones is pretty perfect that first season. And it goes on a little bit, but I mean, it's a 12 episode arc. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And one of the big things is that specifically what was so good about that was doing something that Marvel, even in the films up until that point, really wasn't doing very well. They did very well, which was have an awesome villain.
Right. And that was, I can remember the conversation we had about that, which was, man, now Marvel has 2 really great bad guys because it was Purple Man and Loki, and those were the 2 great Marvel villains up till that point.
Mm-hmm.
What a different world we lived in back then.
We're really how awesome is it that we're really starting to and again, that, like I said, that was a big long problem for Marvel. It's just Ironmonger. Well, that's just kind of similar. Oh, here's what's his nose there? Oh, he's a fake. It's just, it was a lot of kind of real letdown sort of stuff.
Well, what they kept doing was they kept having the villain have the same power set as the hero, which makes sense. You don't want to. You want to see this guy be able to use his powers well, but when just over and over and over again, we're getting Ironmonger, we're getting Yellow Jacket. It was just time and time again where so it's the same. Hulk, Abomination, and Absorbing Man. Yeah. So it was just one of those things where it was like, man, like, come on, guys, like let's figure something else out here. Like, who's a really great villain? And so now you get things like, you get the Vulture with Spider-Man, and the Vulture is, in my opinion, looking back, that is probably the best Marvel villain we've had so far.
And when you look back at the books, it's such a crummy character. I don't care who you are. The Vulture's a crummy character.
Well, so was Iron Man. I mean, Iron Man, with the exception of a couple of story arcs, can you tell me when you read a ton of Iron Man books? Because I can't. I couldn't tell you that.
Mine was really a lot like the Sean Chen era.
Uh-huh.
That was my Iron Man era right there. I read a lot of his stuff. I really liked his Iron Man.
I'm old enough to where I remember when Rhodey first came in and he started being Iron Man, and it was just such a huge deal. Like, wow, there's a new Iron Man even. Tony Stark isn't even Iron Man anymore.
Yeah.
And so I read a little bit of that, and then there was the Armor Wars, which I read. And there's a bunch of, things like that. But we're getting further and further away from Luke Cage. When Luke Cage went to the Marvel Knights format,
mm-hmm.
That's the only time I ever read any story arcs of his at all. And it was pretty good. It wasn't great. It was too dark for me, for that character, where he was wearing that ridiculous suit forever, and then one day he shows up and he's not wearing that suit anymore. and I didn't, I didn't fully understand what they were going for. Now I see what they were going for just through Mike Coulter's performance. I get it.
It's like he's just strapping on a pair of Wranglers and a T-shirt and going to work.
Right, but that's the way to do it.
Oh yeah,
like that's exactly the way to have that character. There's nothing more ridiculous looking than when you see somebody in a really bad suit. Like, how many times have I screamed from the rafters how dumb Black Lightning looks? Like Black Lightning has the dumbest superhero costume ever.
It looks really bad. It's
so bad. And then you see something like Luke Cage, and you're like, see, guys, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Which, by the way, did you know that they?
So I really, I really wanted to like Luke Cage season 2 specifically because I didn't love Jessica Jones season 2, and it feels like, especially more and more lately, that Netflix has so much they have to get done. The Marvel Netflix people, they have so much that they have to get done that they don't have time to work on stuff and rework stuff so that it's great. And so there's just, I wanted to have some care taken with this Luke Cage character because he is so great, and the actor himself is so terrific as Luke Cage.
Yeah, and the only way I think that they're going to kind of skirt around that, and I think you're absolutely correct, is that they're just like, gosh, we got so much to do. We're just trying to bang out all of these as fast as we can. And like I think they I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't have an eye for any sort of quality, because that's just a silly nonsense statement. But you're right, it's not as good as it could be.
That's just because they have too much on their plate. I mean, it's basically the same people making these shows.
Oh, for sure.
And so again and again and again, originally it was, we were getting 12 episodes of something a season, and then we were getting 24 episodes of 2 different characters per year. And now it's even more than that, right? I mean, now we're looking at somewhere around 36, 38 episodes, 39 episodes of Marvel each year on Netflix. That is too much if you have the same people working on it. That is way too much stuff.
You're right, because I mean, when you get down to, I did a Stallone connection here or there. It's like all these people work on the same stuff, like for all of them. Like it's such a huge crossover crew.
Yeah. And it's because they shoot so much of this in New York, and there's only so many people you're going to be able to pull from one area. I don't care where you are. If you're in Atlanta or Georgia, if you're in LA or Atlanta or New York, you're only going to have so many people available to you at one time. And so you're going to have to keep the same crew base for the most part if you're going to have a 36 episode commitment per year. That is insane to me. And so to dovetail nicely into season 2 of Luke Cage, I went in with hopeful expectation, but not to the point where I was going to have my soul crushed if it was bad. And so here we are. It's Luke Cage season 2. Tell me you tell me, Adam, what's one of your favorite things about season 2 so far?
I do like when they get to these moments. I like the moments between characters, and especially like when there's a scene with him and Claire, and they're talking and stuff, really kind of defining like, hey, what it is to be like a black man in society and things like that. I can be seen, one of 2 ways, and it's up to me to kind of figure out how this is. And of course, she's just like, hey, look, it's not easy for me either. It's just like, number 1, I'm not white. Number 2, I am a lady, so I got that kind of quote unquote strike, if you will, against me. So like hearing those conversations, I like things like that. I like things that bring across the story. We talked, I think it was either last week or the week before, about how like a lot of comic books, while we're known, like, people think about comic books as pew pew shoot 'em up action and everything, but honest to God, these are our stories, if you will, and that's really what we have, is that there's a lot of drama and melodrama and stuff in these things. And honestly, that's where a lot of Luke Cage really shines for me. I do like the action moments, but we need to have those, good character moments and stuff as well that makes you relate to these. One of my big problems with season 2 so far within these first 6 episodes is it feels like we are just patting the snot out of this thing.
Oh, see, here is what I am going to say to that. Because this is literally the thing that I like most about season 2, which is that it is slow. It starts slow to the point where, I was 3 episodes in and I was like, man, it is going to be a slog getting through this season. But then episode 4 rolls around and things start happening. And there's a reason why the first 3 episodes were so slow. And then episode 5 happens, and you're like, holy crap. So that was literally all set up, the first 3 episodes. And then episode 6 rolls around, and I was like, holy crap, I guess I'm going to watch this entire rest of the year. And then I watched the entire season in one sitting yesterday. And I did not expect that to happen at all. And it's because they've taken their time. They've done a thing. They've done the thing that we complained about in the first season, which is that, look, we care about these characters that you have set up so well. Let's keep seeing these characters. Mm-hmm. And they didn't make the same mistake that they made with Cottonmouth in the first season with Bushmaster. Bushmaster, the first couple episodes, you're like, okay, so this is the big bad guy. But then they start revealing a little bit more about this guy and a little bit more about this guy. And you're like, oh, okay, now wait a minute. This guy's more Magneto than he is, like just guy for no reason being bad. And that's what I really like about season 2 is that, it's the Marvel problem that we just talked about, because they do have basically the same power set. They just get their powers from different places. But it's I care way more about Bushmaster than I do about Luke Cage's half brother from season 1.
Yeah.
And it's because they did all the setup for this. And I know it feels like padding, but everything pays off later, and it's just terrific.
No,
in my opinion.
I guess I really mean when I say padding, and they did it a little bit in season 1, but this season it seems like it's a little bit on the nose for me. We've had more music numbers in these 6 episodes.
Oh man, you're not kidding.
If
I saw one more musical break on the show, it got to the point where I just started fast forwarding through stuff.
And it's like, and I like the music. The music's fine. It's just like this. It all of it doesn't belong. I don't need to hear. And I think this kid's off YouTube. The big guy who played The Thrill Is Gone.
Right.
I think I've seen him on YouTube. Very talented guy. And I love that song. I'm a huge B.B. King fan myself. I didn't need to see that. Especially not the whole darn thing. Now you try to do a little bit of storytelling and whatnot in the background where you're just like, well, here's some things that are going on and you can infer. But just have it be shorter than that. Come on.
Well, the problem is that they made that's the way they made their machine make their episodes this year.
Yeah.
Is that they clearly had a template for this is what we need to get done to get through each episode. And and you're right. And that is one of my complaints is that they do that where they're setting the table the exact same way each episode. And that doesn't make for fun watching, especially when, like I did, I watched all 13 episodes in one sitting yesterday. And after a while you're like, okay, guys, I get it. Yep. You're setting the table. I get it. All right, let's move on.
Good musical number. Let's move on, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Give me
and
a
I
taste
don't know how many
it.
people are going to continue to watch, Netflix Marvel the way that we have in the past, where you're just like, holy crap, I got to get all this in.
Yeah.
There is definitely I've got to watch this before everything is spoiled is gone now. Originally with Daredevil and with Jessica Jones and even Daredevil season 2, there was a very Game of Thronesy, like I don't want stuff spoiled, so I've got to watch this as soon as humanly possible. That is gone now from Netflix.
Oh, there was a vibe for sure, and yeah, I don't feel that amongst people, and the people that I have seen are I've heard splits on people that have seen all of season 2 at this point. So,
well, I'm going to tell you that just straight up, I'm just going to say. This is the best thing that I've seen from Marvel Netflix in a very long time. This show, season 2, is terrific. Like I liked it as I was watching it, and after having seen it, I like it even more now. With a day past.
Yeah.
That's not to say a week from now that things aren't going to change a bit, but I think that this is one of the seasons where it's like, oh man, this is what it's supposed to be like, and they give it all to you. There is I do have to say though, with me lavishing this praise on it, there is something about this show that makes me crazy, which is that they hire people who are great. Like they'll have actors like the kid who plays Shades, that actor who plays Shades.
Yeah.
Theo Rossi. Mm-hmm. That dude is an amazing actor. He is incredible. And then they'll have like 2 goons standing next to him who who are the worst actors of all time. And it's one of the problems with this show is that you have these amazing performances by Coulter and Rossi, and even the lady who plays Misty Knight. She is way better this year than she was in season 1.
Oh, for sure.
And I really like what they've done with her, and I like what the actress herself has done with the character. It's like it feels like people are listening to her. Like, okay, so do you think that she would do this? Yes, no, whatever it is. But they've done something where those actors are really good actors, and then standing next to them is a guy who has one line, who's clearly never taken acting classes and has never been on screen before, and they're saying it like they're in like a low grade porno movie. And it drives me insane. It's the same problem, and I know I always bring this up, so I'm sorry, everybody. But it's the same problem I always had with Dexter. The guy who plays Dexter is an amazing, amazing actor, and he is surrounded by just terrible, terrible actors. And it's not so bad with Luke Cage. It's not the main characters. The actors who are playing, the main cast, those guys are great. It's the people who come in, or the extras on this show are so awful. Look at a crowd scene in Luke Cage and tell me how great everyone is. It's omnipresent because they have so many live performances on this show, and then they have the people like watching the show, and there are people who should never have been on camera, or at least thrown in the deep back, and they should never have been on screen.
Stop looking down the barrel. Stop it.
Well, clearly they had to have been told that, because no one is looking at the camera, which is fine. At least I didn't catch it.
No.
But there are people who I don't know if they've ever actually danced to music before. They're there. And it's maddening, because you're getting A-grade performances by the main cast, and then it's getting ruined by people with, one line and gone. Hey, freshen your drink, sir. See you at the party. Like those people, those people are terrible almost all the time on the show.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But now, and you're right. So, like, let's talk about Misty Knight, because, like you said, that was one of the things last year that was kind of like, this is she's okay, and even in Defenders, it was like, all right. The characters really, maybe you're right. Maybe it is they've kind of let her in and let her do her own homework, if you will, or whatever. But gosh, she's a heck of a lot better than she has been, and like I like the character.
Here's the reason why is because in season 1 and a little less in Defenders, she was playing everything like she was angry all the time. Like you can't play everything like you're angry all the time, because it makes for a terrible performance. And she's not doing that for season 2. Like season 2, she actually has different motivations behind her character. She wants to do well. She wants Harlem, to be the best Harlem it can be. Whereas season 1, she was just angry at everybody all the time, and none of it was fun. There was nothing cool about that character to me.
And it's fun seeing her just kind of like do the cop work, and be able to kind of like, she's trying to figure out things, of course. And I always like having, someone that has a moral question that they have to kind of wrestle with themselves.
Right.
And I thought it was a great, not only because I like the character, I like the actor, and I like him back, but I love the flashbacks with Frank Whaley, with her former partner who, died in the line and everything. And I think, again, we're reaching deep for character there, and again, that's what works.
Yeah, agreed. And, I do like, even season 1, I even said on this show, I really love their conceit that she can see the crime as it happened when it happened. She can kind of wog into, to use a Game of Thrones term, she can wog into that moment and see what's happened, although she can't see who everyone is at the time, but she gets the gist of what happened to these people. I love that conceit on the show, and I like that it made the jump to season 2, because it's one of the cooler things about season 1, that she can do that. And I especially like that this year, no one has patience for it when she does that. Every time she does it, she people constantly stop her, and they're like, hello, as they're talking to her.
Wakey, we have work to do here, Missy. She's like, I'm solving the crime in my brain.
But I mean, that's a neat like another level stuff to something that they had in season 1. I think that's neat. Whereas in season 1, they just let her go. Like everybody's like, ooh, she's got this thing she can do. Everybody, let's give her space. Whereas season 2, they're like, hey, Misty,
excuse me,
hello, and I love that I love that no one has patience for it this year.
That's what it would be. Because that's what it would be in real life. You'd be like, listen, I don't want to hear your mumbo jumbo about how you solve the crime scene. Shut up and just come on, collect the evidence with us. I got to get home by 9.
Right. So what did you think of Bushmaster?
He's interesting, and that's what I think I like about him, is that at this point, 6 episodes in, I'm not sure I quite get the full game. And the big thing is with him and a lot of the other, this is the first time that we've gotten a large Jamaican influence into the show itself, is that you gotta listen.
Yeah,
you gotta pay attention to what these cats are saying, because it'll wash by you, because it's not full on to where it's just there's like what's it called, colloquialisms that he's using per se. There's they sprinkle in a couple, but it's not real bad. But you do have to kind of like listen, and they some places, and I've seen it before in other things, would have just been like, oh crud, we got to put some subtitles or redub them over to make it not so, because this is but it's better. It's better because you have to pay attention, make sure that you're absolutely engaged with the program. So I like that. And there's something about that actor who just has like a weird bugged out look about him that I like.
Yeah, there's something interesting about him. There's something different about him, and it's a type that you don't see on screen too often. And I like that. I like that this is not a type of person you see often on screen. I will tell you that my lily white college boy suburb in Connecticut upbringing had a hard time understanding what they were saying from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
However, with that being said, it gave it an authenticity that I don't know if it would have had otherwise. And so you do have to pay attention to that, and you do have to at least get the gist of what they're saying to each other. Because I'll tell you, the first episode or two, especially when there's many Jamaicans speaking to each other, I had a very hard time understanding what they were saying.
I think if you put on that one of the descriptors there as well, it just goes, I don't know what they're saying either. Just question mark.
I did think about doing that. I honestly did, because I wanted to parse what they were saying better than I was doing. But after a while, I got the hang of it, and I was able to understand what they were saying.
Yeah, if nothing else, you can always put together, using just the collective terms and stuff, and just go like, oh, okay, I put this together. Context clues.
Right. And, this guy started as the actor himself, Mustafa Shakir, the guy who plays Bushmaster. He has been around for a long time. He's in 42 different projects. He is, he goes so far back as that he was in Shaft, the movie Shaft, and he was in Down to Earth, the Chris Rock movie, where it's Heaven Can Wait, but with Chris Rock.
Right.
And, that's 2000, 2001. This guy's been around for almost 20 years. He just started the way that I like where people start from. He started from nothing. He's uncredited guy. He's like doorman. He's playing these roles where he doesn't say anything. He's just in it, and he keeps going because he's in it. He's interesting to look at because he's got a screen presence. I mean, there's no getting around it. He's got a screen presence. You just keep seeing, you want to see more of him and more of him. And now it's 20 years later, and he's the bad guy on frickin' Luke Cage, for God's sake. Good for him.
We know where he's from.
I don't. Let me look it up for you. Vamp for me for a minute.
Because and first of all, you've got the first name Mustafa. It
is. It's Mustafa Shakir.
Mustafa. That alone from The Lion King should put fear in the hearts of everyone everywhere, especially if Whoopi Goldberg's saying it. But speaking of Mustafa, the other Mustafa, the what you call it there, the Old Spice guy, he's actually going to be Mike in the It movie. So
really,
it's a big time for Mustafas all around, baby.
Man, he's got he's leading the same path as the rubber band man from the Office Depot commercials in the 2000s, where he really did just go as far as you can possibly go as a skinny guy with a giant afro.
Well, let's see what else we can do. But no, he's really good, and I like the idea that like our villain half the time is sitting in a bar watching soccer. It's just like him and his buddies are all just drinking. He doesn't have some lavish hideout. He's just sitting in some Jamaican bar, just going like, we watch these guys all kick around a ball for 3 hours at a time. Not something that I would call fun, but hey, you people and you're like, soccer's the best sport ever. It's the number one sport around the world. That doesn't mean it's good. A lot of people like, crummy music.
Wow. So he grew up in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he is actually Jamaican, but he grew up in Harlem in New York. He admires Viola Davis and Morgan Freeman are his
not bad.
Are his personal heroes. And he is a massive comic book fan, and he would really like to play either Blade or Spawn.
Hey, we could. You're already on the Netflix ban here, so like, if Blade was good, I honestly think if Blade was to go anywhere, it would probably go Netflix. I don't know that we'd bring him back for another movie. But then again, I don't really. I'm sorry, I'm not on the Blade train. I'm just not. I don't care.
I think that Blade is one of those characters to me, like Ghost Rider or like the Punisher. They are great in small doses. The Punisher Netflix series is great. That is the best Punisher we'll ever get. But, I like my Punisher in small doses where you're like, oh, holy crap, Frank's in the room.
Well, so let's take that idea real quick and even put it into like these other things. Would it be wild and crazy for like, in an episode of Luke Cage, there's like, and I mean literally like maybe 2 episodes at the most, to where we kind of have like, oh, there's some vampires or something in town and you've got to get those. I almost think that something like that would have us like almost kind of one-off and bring us to a little bit more of the kind of X-Files version, if you will, right? Because X-Files always had your Monster of the Week, and then it had your Legacy episodes.
Right.
I think that these shows may be better well suited if they're going to stick with the 13 that they're doing right now, which we've stated on this show many a time that that's not necessarily what we think should be the case.
Right.
If they did it like that and had like, hey, here's some cameo, maybe not necessarily even cameos, but more Monster of the Week, more Criminal of the Week kind of stuff, and then back to the regular big stuff, I think that might break things up a little bit more and have that flow kind of work, at least for me.
Well, that's a great idea. The problem is, if I can put on my conspiracy hat here for a second, is that I don't know if the properties that are at Marvel Netflix are going to be. They're going to give much more to those like original content. I don't know if they're going to be giving any more property to those properties because of the streaming service that Disney's about to start. I would imagine that they are going to hold off on giving them any new characters to play with in that sandbox, because they're going to because Marvel Netflix. I don't know how long that deal is for. But I know that they're going to continue making, like, Daredevil and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones for Marvel Netflix. But with Disney's streaming service starting and that flagship of the Star Wars thing, they're going to want to have Marvel property on that too.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to keep all that for themselves so that when they start their own streaming service, oh, hey, you think those guys are awesome? Well, get ready for these guys. It just has that feeling to me.
Yeah, that does not sound like that would surprise me at all, really, if they go, hey, here's what we got. So,
right.
I dig it. Let's talk about Misty's arm real quick.
I feel dirty talking about it without Bruce here, because all Bruce wanted was for Misty Knight to get a robot arm. That's all he wanted.
He wanted that from the second he saw her on screen. It's just like, oh, isn't she lovely? Where's that arm?
That's all he wanted to have. Was he wanted that robot arm so bad. And he did say too, he was like, you know what's going to end up happening. I think he even said it in season 1, our review in season 1, was Danny's going to end up paying for a robot arm for her, and that'll be how she gets it. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's good stuff, and it kind of works. And I love how it's kind of low tech how they do it in the real world.
Right.
It's clearly just like a long glove with crap on the outside of it.
Right. And I like that though. I think that's neat.
I do too. I was just like, oh, it's just a stocking that you wear over your hand that's got a whole bunch of crap on it that makes it look like you got a robot arm. All right, I dig it.
That's totally fine by me. And I like that that the second she gets that robot arm, one more person makes a crack about her arm, and then no one does ever again.
Yeah. Have it be a quick little thing and then move on from that point, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And now we're never going to speak of her robot arm ever again.
No. So all right, let's talk about it. He kind of opens up the show, and the late great Reg E. Cathy, who's been quite the staple here on HMP. This here's a swan song, everybody. And man, oh man, does he open up this season with just this awesome kind of rehearsing his sermon or whatever. Oh, come on. Just so good.
So good, man. And I watched it with Lindsay. I watched this season with Lindsay. And she right away, she asked who's on this season. And I said, well, blah, 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 and blah, 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 and Reggie Cathy. And she went, is that my brother. Is it that guy? And I went, yeah, it is that guy. And so when he started off the episode of the first episode of the second season, she was like, I know it's too soon to say this, but I think this is going to be a really good season. And I agree. When you book in your thing, we saw Jurassic World this weekend. Mm-hmm. When you book in your movie with Jeff Goldblum at the beginning and end, you're doing the right thing. That's exactly how that goes. Yeah. If you've got Luke Cage, if you've got Reggie Cathy, you start your season with Reggie Cathy, you end your season with Reggie Cathy. That's how you do it.
Here's how we're going to get into this season. I'm going to give you all the backstory you need. It's like, oh, so good.
So good, man. I just love that guy's voice. And he's that's another guy where, he's just giving in. He's turning in a performance that you don't see on television all the time. Like, that guy's killing it. Just killing it. And then next thing you know, there's some extra, picking their nose. Like, it's the thing that makes me crazy about this show, where over and over again you see amazing actors and amazing performances, and then some idiot ruins it.
Now,
stop putting your cousin in your TV show.
Now, that being said, I think you're absolutely right, and I think they did actually avoid that at one particular time, and I'll tell you when. Is when they were in the when Luke Cage is doing his personal appearance and everything, and he's there with his boy Piranha, and Piranha's talking to these models, and somehow these models just don't speak English or whatever. I feel that was an on-set decision, just going, you know what? What if they're not from this country?
That's perfect.
That just seems like they really kind of thought that. I was like, these are good-looking ladies, but man, we've gone over these lines a couple times, and this is just not. Hey, how about you're just from another country?
Perfect.
Follow this strange man of who you don't know.
Guy who plays Piranha, by the way, every time he's on screen, I just start laughing.
I love that guy.
His facial expressions are so great. I love that guy so much. I want to see him in everything.
He just looks like he's the most happy person to show up to work. He's
like a young Jonathan Witherspoon.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's actually pretty good. Hey, yeah, he's all over the place. He's just awesome, and I love how he's just like, hey, look, what am I paying you for here? Come on.
It's so good.
To pull out a gun in the middle of the thing, what kind of wacko would just go like, this is a great idea, here's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm just gonna shoot this guy.
Like, he straight up just goes, it's gonna ricochet off me and kill somebody. Why don't you just lighten up a little bit? Bang, bang. Oh, geez. Things went awfully wrong. There you have it.
I love that actor. Well, I actually, we can spoil it, right?
Yeah. We're first 6 episodes.
Yeah. I can't remember where things are. And that's why I've been very general about my review of the first 6 episodes so far.
Well, I think so it's probably not where you're thinking just yet.
Yeah, then I'm not gonna say anything more.
We'll wait for it. But he's really great, and I like the kind of politics of it all. The trying to get things, Black Mariah's business to go completely clean. Them not quite dealing with the right people. It's like when crime meets crime, it's not necessarily all for one person's benefit or whatever. And then also having your own ambition be the thing that blinds you to something that normally would have been way obvious to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and people are reacting to each other the way that people react to each other. That's the cool thing about this season. Is that people are making dumb mistakes, but they're honest mistakes, Mm-hmm. It's not something where you're like, oh, come on, no one would do that. And it's what's made this season so interesting to me, is that just time and time again with all the characters, with Luke, with Mariah, even with Shades, where just again and again and again, you're like, you believe that people behave the way that they behave on this show.
Right. Yeah, it's something that they seem to be able to do quite well. Now, okay, speaking of side characters, let's talk about this one kid which first of all, why hasn't this kid just been killed yet? The kid that's hanging around the barbershop that's selling all the Luke Cage merch and stuff, who's practically just taking his supposed friend and just A, selling him out big time, and B, practically putting him just straight up in danger.
Well, you talk about DW. You're talking about DW. DW, you have to keep watching.
Okay, all right. So that character goes, I'll be darned. How about this? So his name is actually in the show here, D.W. Griffith.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, that's famed director of silent movies from back in the day, most notably the first movie to be shown on the White House lawn, which was described as, I believe, Thunder and Lightning brought to life or something like that. Birth of a Nation. Also
incredibly racist.
Oh yes, it's not.
Where the Ku Klux Klan are the good guys.
It's not a good message, and it's so long. That's the worst part. I was just like, because that was one of the ones where when I was a youngster doing the AFI's Top 100. I was like, okay, time to watch this. It's a silent film. Okay, we've done some silent films before. No big deal. 3 hours. Sure.
Yeah, they bite you. They bite you a lot. The AFI Top 100.
It's there's some gems, but there's some ones that are just like, oh, okay, this is a trek right here, boy. And that was
you. I cannot state this enough. If you you clearly like the movies that we like. If you're looking for a really old movie that you've never seen that's really good, Treasure of the Sierra Madre with Humphrey Bogart is awesome, and see it.
We don't need no stinking badges.
It is so good.
Yeah. But I'm all for, I like a lot of the secondary characters. Not, like I said, not any of the ones that are in here trying to do their best acting. But even Shades' buddy, who's clearly, as we find out in the first 6 episodes rather, is kind of playing both sides here a little bit. Even that guy's not bad.
No, I agree. Comanche's great. I like that. Again, that guy is an actual actor. Thomas Jones, and Thomas Jones was a running back in the NFL for like 10 years.
Oh.
He's a backup running back, and he's great. He's great on the show. And he, he looks like he belongs, and his performances are good. he's not one of the people I have a problem with. The biggest character, the biggest actress I have a problem with this year is Mariah's daughter. She's the biggest, to me, she is the biggest complaint I have about the main cast.
Yeah.
That girl at times has no idea what she's doing on screen.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like she even like knows where to look or something. I think
sometimes she's great. She's a great crier. Like she cries great on screen. But with other things, when you're giving her something maybe a little more nuanced, that's when she has problems.
She can act to the back of the theater, but not to the lens of the camera. Ooh,
exactly. Which is which isn't rare with a New York actor who's new. You're gonna get some of those performances.
Makes sense.
You're used to theater. You're going to act like you are a theater actor.
Now, what do you think so far of kind of the action this year? I feel like, this may be me just projecting, and you tell me if you think otherwise. It feels like the action's drawn back a little bit this year. Am I imagining
wait
that or
for
no?
it.
Okay, so we kick up a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, the second half is almost all action. But I agree with you. They're a little light on action during those first couple episodes, and quite honestly, I could totally see where somebody is 3 episodes into the season and going, I cannot watch this. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But you don't need to do anything when it comes to being entertained. However, you should because it pays off. If you watch the season, all the way through, it pays off. You will enjoy it far more that you went through those first 3 episodes, which are a bit of a slog. It's totally worth it, in my opinion.
Let's see what else I kind of want to cover real quick.
Did you remember everybody from season 1? Could you remember all the characters?
Mostly.
Because when the new police, maybe never mind. I don't know what. I don't know when that happens. Never mind. There's one character when she shows up, we're clearly supposed to know who that person is. I was like, I do not remember this person at all. Who is this?
I don't know that I've gotten quite that. Or I'm so good at knowing, I'm just like, well, of course. I'm going to go with the smart answer.
Maybe I'm really, really smart.
It's probably not true, but that's what I'm going to go with.
Sure, and why shouldn't you?
Just lean into the good stuff. It's like, hey, aren't you a genius? Yeah, these things happen. Who's to say?
I don't know what to tell you. I guess I'm just smarter than most.
But I like how we've also we're planting seeds. We're planting seeds for Heroes for Hire.
Yep.
It's just being put in there, and like frankly, I am hoping beyond hope that that's where we head to really soon, because frankly, I think that's where we can have some fun.
Oh, and it's far more interesting too. That was the interesting thing to me growing up about when Luke Cage would show up from time to time and things, is that he was a hero for hire, and he had his buddy Iron Fist that I thought was really cool in the comic books, but in Marvel Netflix he is not so cool.
But when they were interacting together and kind of busting chops and stuff and Defenders,
agreed.
That was a highlight,
Agreed.
man. You're just like, let's do this. Come on now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's where it needs to go. It's where the show needs to go, in my opinion. Is that he doesn't behave like every superhero does. He's different, and they need to do that. Don't just make him like every other superhero because you can. Mm-hmm. Make him what made him interesting in the first place. And it seems like that's where they're headed for sure.
Oh, because it happens in these first 6 episodes here, we get our leaving of the night nurse, if you will.
Yes.
Now, do you believe, as I believe, that this may be? Listen. She's done more of these than anyone. That this may be her kind of flying the coop, if not for good, but for at least for a good while.
Yes, I do. I think that she's probably going to pop up again, but she only when she wants to, and when things are bigger. She's not going to show up in every episode of every Netflix Marvel show anymore, and she doesn't have to. She's done her time.
No, we can have.
I love Claire. I love the Night Nurse. I think she's a great character, but she's put in her time. Let her go do her thing.
And now, were you surprised at the level of hip hop fan that Foggy is?
I have something that I am saving for the end of the episode.
Okay.
So I am not going to say much more about Foggy.
Fair enough.
But I am not surprised. I think that there is a reason why they did that.
Okay. But yeah, overall, like I said, save for the really long instrumentals, not really instrumentals, they're just songs. That was it was a hit in season 1, but that was nice because it was something that was so very different, something that we weren't, used to having. This time around does feel just like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's just move along.
And the gratuitous sex scenes. Like those make me crazy on these shows. We don't need sex scenes in our superhero shows. Like that's not what I'm watching. And if you have them,
make them fun like the Jessica Jones and Luke Cage one was, where stuff's getting broken.
Yeah, that's to inform. What are you informing this time?
That's true.
Like
they do
nothing. It's just there because it's there.
They you want to see these attractive people in less clothing. That's essentially what it comes down to. It's just like,
exactly.
Hey, how can we sell this? Hey, let's take these good-looking people. Let's take the clothes off and put them in front of a camera. The world will like that. And look, it's not for nothing. It's good, but what does it really add? The answer is really nothing.
It doesn't. It doesn't add anything. And with both the gratuitous sex scenes and then these forever long music videos, basically live music videos that they're shooting to as I keep saying, to set the table. They, okay, well, we just knocked off 2 minutes. Like, okay, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no reason to watch this.
Where's the story at, please? I'd like
exactly.
I'd like to have a little story with my stuff. Go crazy. All right, well, there you go, everybody. Now, before we wrap this thing up, though, we do have to ask ourselves one very important question that we ask ourselves every episode because, believe it or not, it is a thing that happens. We have to ask ourselves how this television program relates to one Sylvester Stallone.
Well, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Guy Fernandez is an actor working on movies like Captain America: Civil War, Lee Daniels, The Butler, and Luke Cage, where he played the role of Cop Number 2. Guy Fernandez is also a stuntman working on Josh Trank's Fantastic Four movie, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, and next year's John Wick 3. But he's also an electric on movie sets, and he's worked on the criminally underrated movie Midnight Special. Seriously, if you haven't seen it, you should totally see that movie. And one of my favorite movies of all time, Looper. He was also the second unit best boy on Sylvester Stallone's third biggest franchise, The Expendables. The Expendables 2, to be more specific, a movie we've dropped knowledge on so often it feels like I've seen it several times, even though I have not. What I don't remember is whether or not I've spoken about an idea I've had for television that actually does what The Expendables promises but never delivers on, and that's actually killing performers on the show. My idea is this. There's an elite fighting force, Dirty Dozen style, that's populated with 80s and 90s television stars. And each week they have to perform an improbable mission, but they need to get the band back together. So you have the guy who played Hunter. You got the guys who played Simon and Jake from Jake and the Fat Man. Take whomever is still alive from the A-Team, Lorenzo Lamas, whoever's willing to do it, and make some very much needed, must-watch TV. You kill a few guys off each episode because who doesn't want to see the guy who played Peter Brady go out in a blaze of glory? Bring in new guys each week. Now you got Zach from Saved by the Bell in a Mission Impossible scenario with a guy who played Booger but was also on the TV show Moonlighting. The girl who played Small Wonder and the lady from Buck Rogers taking out bad guys while the cast of Whiz Kids are tech support. Who wouldn't want to watch that show? Imagine that there's a character that they only bring in when things are really, really bad. He's a Hannibal Lecter style character where you just know all the bad guys are going to die, and it's really, really bad carnage. And you got to release them from prison, kind of a like a break glass in case of emergency type scenario. And that guy is played by Belky from Perfect Strangers.
Yes.
It's almost dumb not to make this show. Everyone on television has been so busy showing everyone how smart they are that they forgot to make TV fun. As a wise man I totally made up once said, you can stick your flip-flap in a lobster tank, but that don't make you no sailor. And there you have it, HMPers. Guy Fernandez is your Stallone connection. Now, Matt Houston, or maybe Stingray. Let's talk about Luke Cage a bit more, because who doesn't want to hear three guys who are the real-world equivalent of Foggy have to say about Luke Cage?
It's very true. So far, I would say this first half of the season, I'm okay with it. I'm about this first half feels like the second half felt for me last year or last go round. I liked it well enough, but I wasn't really blown away. So maybe season 2 will be the converse over here. Maybe the first half will be a little bit weak, and the second half will kind of rise to the occasion and really wrap it all up in a nice, pretty bow. I'd ask you, but you already seen it, so there you go.
I love this season. I think it's great. I can't wait to talk about season 2 so we can actually talk about the show, because I can't remember what episode is what. But this show is in my opinion, a return to form for Netflix, and I'm excited to see more Luke Cage, quite frankly. And they're taking the character in interesting places, and I can't wait to see more.
Good. So that wraps it up for us this week, everybody. Man, this one went by rather quickly, I thought. See what happens when we don't have Bruce Leslie weighing us down? We just kind of bang through notes.
Weighing us down.
That's not it.
God Almighty! Without that guy, we are dead in the water.
It's just we're floating, baby. It's a joke, but it's a joke because it's so clearly a joke.
Man, I miss you so much, Bruce. I can't even take it.
So Bruce will be back with us very soon, but he'll also be with us on some other stuff. Because in the meantime, until next week, let's talk about what we're going to do next week. Did we decide that we're going to do the Superman 2, or did you want to do Cloak and Dagger? Let's do it on the.
Let's do the first 2 episodes of Cloak and Dagger.
All right, so 2 episodes of Cloak and Dagger coming to you next week, everybody. I believe that's available on Hulu, if memory serves. So check that out, and we will as well. And if you'd like to email us about that or anything else that you like on this here program, email us at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And we'd also love it if you dropped down to the iTunes, gave us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger? Haven't had to do that in a long time.
Yeah, we'd really appreciate that. In the meantime, where can they find more of your work on the internet?
You can reach me at Hero Movie Sean on Twitter. Well, I'm actually on now. And you can find me on the Preacher Podcast, which starts this week. Again, we start up again this week. Or you can find me at dogeatpod.com.
Yes, indeed. The #1 Preacher Podcast on the market right now, everybody. So go check that out. And help us get into those top 150 iTunes TV and film that we were pretty much stuck in all of last season and the season before, which is pretty nice. So thank you guys for helping make that happen. And that episode should be dropping late, probably sometime on Wednesday, maybe late Tuesday or early Wednesday. So check that out.
Yeah, late Tuesday, early Wednesday, I would think.
So that'll do us, man. Join us next week when we're talking the first 2 episodes of Cloak and Dagger. For the absent Bruce Leslie, Sean Keenan, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Night, Marty and Evie. We miss you, Commodore. We miss you so much.
Come back.